Hello and welcome along to episode 203, a nice wee number there at the end, the Endless Celts Podcast. I'll be hosting the night. I only seem to host when we beat Rangers, so it should be a good one today. And I'm glad to be joined by, just to make it nice and awkward, two Rosses. Ross Muir, I'm going to try and call him Roscoe, but as I just spoke to the Flair, I think in the 25 years I've known him, I've never called him that, so it could be interesting. Then a good friend of the show, Ross McCall. How are you both doing?
Roscoe.
Very good, mate. Aye, doing well. Hanging by attack, to be perfectly honest. But here to talk about another good performance against our old foes, or young foes, as they are now.
I'm guessing it was a big night in Glasgow last night, lads. Is that why you're hanging on?
Couple of
aye, my voice is almost gone, aye.
Use it to your advantage, mate. It's sexy. Go with it.
you should hear me singing. I'm like Phoebe for Friends.
Right, so before we get into the show, just like to say a big thanks to our show sponsors, Sharner Clothing. Got some nice gear. Stephen was sporting a nice wee pink number on Friday for them and that for the summer range. But if you follow the link below, you get a nice wee 10% discount, and on the YouTube, the comments, I think there's a direct link straight to it and stuff. But now that's all out the window. Let's just get into it and stuff. And so it was yesterday. Another Celtic Rangers game just came around. It was dubbed as sort of all or nothing for Rangers. Really, it was their season was riding on it, and it was a big match. It was potentially the last hurdle before we maybe secured the treble and stuff. But I say we'll kind of get into all that a wee bit. But so Ross McCall, I'll just come to yourself. Just a wee brief description how the game and stuff. Just how you've seen it and stuff.
I think the build up to old firm derbies, whatever we call them these days, that build up is just like full of excitement and nervousness and apprehension and anxiety and all those things that go with it. Me myself, lately, have always been silently confident. I think that's because of following the manager and sort of trusting what he's building and what he's built, and that's and so far watching our arch rivals the other side of the city, I just feel that we're a far superior team in all positions, in all fronts. I've seen a lot of things online about people saying certain players could play for either side and who would prefer it. There's not one person I would drop from our Celtic squad, and there's not one person I would pick from the opposition squad. So I was going in, relatively confident, happy, chasing the treble. I'm also silently confident about it, but I don't think anyone should go out their way to jinx it. But it looks like if we'd gotten through this, the treble could be a serious conversation for us to have. So didn't want to lose it. Obviously, you never want to lose it. But going in, I think our day was all picked up a little bit by the news that Rio was back, and Jota was back, and Abada was back. So that was exciting for me to see the boys. I thought Hatate was probably a little off his pace if there was any downside to the game itself, but I was excited to see him. And once we got on the pitch, it just seems to be that we find these little moments of magic. And I've heard opposition managers just saying, well, it's our team switches off and their team switches on. I think it's more than that. I mean, that cross that he put in for us, Dies. It's unreal. The ability on that boy is the fact that he turns at such a pace, the angle he's at to get that ball across. The fact that we all know it was a Stonewall free kick.
I know.
And we're very, very happy that, the ref decided to, play the advantage. I'm sure he's I think him and the lino were probably not one to score in that moment. So to be able to do that, I'm just very grateful that he didn't then blow and bring it back for a free kick. But it was a magic day, and there's nothing better than beating our foes, and there's nothing better than watching us play some really good football when we do it. Was it our best game? No. I think we're owed our best game again. I think we've had a couple of slack performances recently, and we've just sort of piped through it. The Motherwell thing was a bit rocky, and a couple of games before that, we just haven't been firing on all cylinders. But I was not concerned, and I'm happy that I was right.
No, it was. I think you've kind of summed up great with what it was. Just like that, there was plenty top performances. Maeda's cross, I think, it's gone so underrated how good that cross actually was, and like say Jota just keeping in at the back post and stuff. What about yourself, Ross? What did you kind of make of the game?
Aye, much like Ross there. I think Rangers started the game really fast. I expected them to, given that their season was riding on it, similar to last year. And they did. They put us under pressure. Raskin got that shot off pretty much the first 1 or 2 minutes. It was blocked out for the corner. But we do what we do. We come through, as our captain says, we come through the moments, and then we started to take control of the game, I felt. We didn't absolutely dominate it, but I would say for the last half hour of the first half, I thought we looked the better team, the more likely. We got our goal at a perfect time in the game. And again, like you, the way, like Ross had said, they're talking about how Rangers switched off. And yeah, you can make the case that they did switch off, but at the same time, Cal McGregor gets his hand on the ball, plays it early. O'Reilly's fouled. They stop. Yes, they do. But Ange said it himself, we never stop. And if ever there was a goal that just was perfect for that mantra, it was that goal. Maeda's cross is absolutely superb. Like you say, he takes it on the spin, and he doesn't even have to look up, because he knows that. I think Jota sort of alluded to it a wee bit in his post-match interview. He doesn't need to look up. He just knows to put it into an area, and he knows that his mate Jota knows where to be on the park. He knows where to go, and he was in there. Tavernier, he has a couple of looks, and then he switches off. But Jota, like the full team, is on it. He was in there. He gets the goal. Second half, Rangers come out, and again, like Cal McGregor had said in his interview, we had a plan, but it didn't materialise because Rangers done. Well, you have to credit Rangers. They're more than a decent team, I think, but they're just not quite a match for Celtic. But the second half, they put us under a bit of pressure. But as much as you love Celtic playing the nice football that they've played for the most part of the season, they showed again in a big game another side. And I thought Cameron Carter-Vickers was absolutely colossal. And don't get me wrong, so was Starfelt. They just headed everything. But Carter-Vickers, he gets the man of the match, I think. He just edges it. And another guy, Joe Hart, has took a bit of flack. I thought he was outstanding yesterday.
It was one of his best games yesterday.
Aye. There was no point in the second half where I thought, do you know that way, like, we're really, it's last ditch here, we're really struggling. Rangers had a lot of the ball, but they didn't make a lot of, one clear-cut chance. The one, obviously, Tavernier hits the post and it comes out. Sakala should score all day long, but he doesn't. Other than that, Joe Hart's had a couple of good saves, but saves you would probably expect him to make. If he lets them in, Ken, you're on him. So, all in all, I thought we probably deserved it, shaded it, but I think we were pretty comfortable in the game, to be honest with you.
We're a superior team right now, and just like the bond between the fellas seems to be really apparent, and it comes out. And just what you were saying, Ross, the fact that he knew Jota was going to be there. And it's like, it just seems like, I don't know if you saw afterwards a celebration, De Azen's the first one over to Jota.
Right.
And then everyone celebrates. Then he comes back again, and it's just like that collective brotherhood, whatever we want to call it, the team spirit is abundantly clear. And even you talking about the two centre backs, I thought they were both immense, but I also thought Ralston came on and put on a fucking shit. And I'm like, the kid hasn't played
really did
forever, because Alistair Johnson we all adore, and the fact that Ralston comes on, knows what it means, knows what it is. And Taylor's the smallest man on every pitch, but he's still like a little. I mean, I love that picture of him getting in someone's face. You know, it's like
you've lifted Barisic up to the neck of his top.
I would have rolled him off the pitch. You know, I love that he's doing it. And there's just that collective. And listen, again, without kicking too much dirt, you know, you see that there's a kinsmanship, a sportsmanship, something that I really do love, especially with our Japanese boys. Is I actually love the way that they've got a bit of grace, and if somebody's over, they go over. And not everyone will agree with that. I understand it, but you know, they go over, make sure everybody's all right, and it's just the culture that they're raised in.
Yeah.
You look at Hatate going to grab a drink of water from the opposition's bag, and you watch what happens. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful.
Terrible.
Absolutely
so bad that.
But that sums it up, and you go, that's a difference. The difference is our boys know where they're going to be. They wouldn't mind giving fucking water. I mean, of course, a sportsman. But it just the whole day summed up what Celtic seems to be about right now, and I think that's what's making us head towards another championship. I really do.
Yep.
I think these are both summed up well. Like I think it was that old cliche game, the two halves, like you say, Ross. Rangers came out the traps pretty quick and stuff. We weathered that sort of a mini storm, and then we grew into the game and played it. The game kind of reminded me a wee bit. Remember the 2-1 game at Ibrox where Ramsey scored, and then like the second half on that, they kind of put on us under a bit of pressure, but nothing where Joe Hart was pulling off last ditch saves and things. I just thought, I think Ange, it's what he done is he's kind of built a team for entertaining, and maybe we've been a wee bit ignorant to how good our defensive unit he's put together and stuff. And it just, I think that game, the 2-1 game then yesterday, just showed that he's not about entertaining. He knows he needs a strong sort of a base to allow these players like your Hatatis, your Jotas, Maedas, Kyrgios to be the entertainers and stuff. And I just thought, like you just said, that I think the two centre halves were absolutely brilliant. Joe Hart was
even
Carter brilliant as well.
You know, and he says yesterday, it's like you watch the midfielders that come back, you know, and actually help out the defence when we need it. Because look, Rangers are no pushovers. We know this. You know, when they show up, they've got a team, and you know, and especially in these derby games, like it's a cup final whenever we play, you know, and so and they got to a European final last year. I mean, let's not forget, they're not slouches. They're just not as good as Celtic, and I think that's basically the key. Is there's just a great team. Kinsmanship that's just running through the spine of our team. That I saw something. I think it might have even been like the Motherwell game, and it was Kyogo who ran all the way back and tackled somebody in the box, got the ball, and came up the pitch. And I think it was a Motherwell game. It was recent, and I was watching something. I think Sutton and McCoist were doing their little thing on Sky, and there was some fans there and stuff, and I think, you know, it was funny watching McCoy's not been able to utter Kyogo's name, but saying that, you know? But he was also like, well, he's one of those strikers that he just waits. He touches the ball maybe 5 times a game. I'm like, you ain't watching the same game as me, because I feel that the team really is. They'll move back and they'll help out when we are under pressure, and that's what's just making us, you know, have the dazzle as well.
And by the way, what I will say as well, I think that yesterday sort of put to bed this narrative that Ange only knows or Celtic only know how to play one way. I think they showed yesterday that is not accurate whatsoever. They want to play one way, but they can change it up and game manage and play the fixture, if you like, in terms of like how the game's going. And game management, if you like. I think they showed that in abundance yesterday, and it was great to see.
I think the thing I'm looking forward to most, perhaps everybody is either, you know, they're vocalizing it or not, but I think we want to see how we develop in Europe to that point, Ross. You know, is like we all know Europe hasn't been our strength for the past few years. And maybe this is what we're starting to figure out, you know, that we can, because in Europe we do have to sit back, you know, we are getting attacked and we have to ride waves after waves. I think that's going to be the interesting part for me, to see if we actually develop ourselves and become those European giants once more.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to say
I
something.
know I thought you were going to say something. On you go, Fran. It's all right.
I know. I think these are both bang on, and I think that's probably what we all want as a fan base. Is sort of next sort of advances of Angie's team is to try and do better in Europe. Get that name again. Get like Celtic being more than just more recognisable at Parkhead, where it was a fortress and stuff like that. So I think that's maybe what we'll all be looking for going into next season, to try and just get that going. But just kind of touching on the starting lineup, obviously some key players came back. Jota, Hatate, like you said, Abada. I think he was back, but I don't think he was on the bench or something. Was it? I can't remember if he was on the bench.
Did he not make the bench? Did he?
I don't know. I could be totally making that up. Somebody will correct me in the comments, but I think he wasn't. I don't think he was on the bench. But what did you think when you seen the starting lineup? Because for me, I thought guys like Hatate and Jota were key for that. A bit like Ross Adele. I don't think Hatate wasn't quite up to it. He just wasn't. I don't think he was fit. I mean, I was with you, Ross. A 70% Hatate. I would play him every day of the week, and even seeing that game, I probably would still do that if I had this option a few weeks' time. But what did you think of the starting lineup? Do you think that's arguably our strongest lineup?
When I saw the starting lineup, that's who I would have picked. Like, in the fandom, and usually as fans, we don't really fully understand why some people are playing and why some people are not. We're not in behind the scenes. So for me, I was elated. I was like, that's the strongest 11 for me at this point. But I was really pleasantly surprised with even the subs that we made, like Moy, who's been a phenomenon, but the past couple of weeks he was off the boil a little bit, and I was like, I don't know if this is the game for him. And I thought he was great when he played. He was hungry, he was strong. Iwata looks like a player to me. He, every time he comes on, I think he fumbled his first ball when he came on yesterday, but apart from that, I don't think he put foot wrong. And so watching the subs come in and out, I'm always gutted when I see Kyogo go off. I understand why, but I just want him to get a goal every time. So if he gets subbed after scoring 2 goals, I'm happy. But if he hasn't scored, I'm a little. And to have Jota, I just think, Jota and there's about 5 or 6 players that are just undroppable, and so if they are fit and they're healthy, I would have them. So it didn't bother me when I saw them both yesterday. I'm like, absolutely, that's who I would have.
What about yourself, Roscoe? What did you think of the starting lineup when you seen it?
Similar. I mean, I'd say I was on Friday night and I had said that obviously I would play Hatate if he was 70% fit, and Stephen had made the case. He understands, like, you would want to play him, but he wouldn't, and it was for reasons which he evidently actually showed yesterday, that he was a bit short and he didn't look like the normal Hatate that we're used to, but he still done well in the game. We still got the job done having started Hatate. But again, like yourself, Rani, even with the benefit of hindsight, I would still start Hatate in that game. Jota, I think, was like, he was the main, as much as Hatate really makes us tick in the middle of the park. I think Jota was the main one that we wanted back, because you've got Maeda on the left, and obviously Haksabanovic, there's a player in there. But a game like this, if you can have Jota ready to go, it's just a big advantage. And obviously we saw that in the game. There was a wee bit of rustiness early on when he had that. We had probably the chance of the game before his header, and he's just let it slip under his foot. A couple of games more under his belt, he's maybe hitting that first time or taking a touch out his feet, and it's 1-0 because you just believe he's got to score for there. He's just clinical, and he's a big game player. I think he's going to be I think he'll be a world class player in the not too distant future. But I mean, again, you could have made a case if Moy had been, if he'd had a couple of better performances under his belt in the last few games, but obviously he didn't look quite up to it because of his fitness, etc. So I think on paper that starting 11 is currently our strongest starting 11. So when I seen that coming out, I was absolutely delighted, and I knew then, if I didn't know before, that we were going to get the result.
I think there's a thing with the teams as well, and again, I'm totally stealing from another interview that I saw, but it's true. I think I think when the opposition sees a Jota and Hatate, it puts a little fear in them. And right now, I don't think there's anybody on Rangers' team that we necessarily fear. You know, and I think right now, if they see Kyogo, if they see Hatate, if they see, Jota, all of a sudden they know that they're up against a guy. So that's what I was happy to see them, because I think had they have been on the bench or perhaps not even made the bench, I think it would give a little bit of a kick to the opposition, because they'll be like, oh, great. Thank God, you know, because they're known to be big players for us. So I'm pretty sure that they were like, oh, really? It's very helpful for us.
I totally get what you mean and stuff. As when you see the sort of that level of player in the lineup, the Rangers maybe don't know that they're not maybe 100% fit, but they've just got to kind of judge it there and then go, well, we're actually facing these guys, we need to be on it. And then just kind of talking about the starting lineup, I know we kind of briefly touched on Carter-Vickers, but I thought the guy was absolutely brilliant. Obviously got man of the match and stuff, and just came out and said it'll be his last game and things like that, because he needs to get this operation. Hopefully he's timed it well that he'll be back in time for next season, or certainly when the Champions League games come around. But just how good is Carter-Vickers right now? How key is it to this team? And I'll come to you yourself, Ross. That's Ross down here first on this one. I'm struggling to call you Roscoe.
I think he's been an immense signing for us. I think when he came on loan from Spurs, I think we were all within that first season saying, please sign him. You know, I believe he's nicknamed the Fridge now, which just makes me laugh. So he used to be an old American footballer with the same nickname when I was a kid, and I was like, that's brilliant that they called him the Fridge. He seems like just a team player. I even like the way he conducts himself. Footballers predominantly don't really know how to speak in front of a microphone, you know, but we've got a few players now that you wouldn't normally think can conduct an interview, and he does it very well for somebody who you can tell it's not his main forte. You know? But he's to the point. He's straight. He talks about the team. He talks about his partnership with Starfelt with utmost respect. And he's just, you know, he's a big boy, isn't he? I mean, we always we like to have tough guys on our side. And I feel that we've definitely got that. Starfelt probably being the lesser of the four at the back. But, you know, the other three, and even bringing in the Bricky, you know, you've got some tough nuts back there, which I think helps. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm elated. I think he throws himself out. He can head the ball as well. He's got a good clearance on him. But what I really like about the back four right now is there seems to be a calmness with all of them. So when the ball is getting played back between the keeper and the left back and the centre back, like, you know, not so long ago, we would all be like, you know, who's the bomb scare? You know, back four, we'd be like, just punt the ball, just get rid of it. Now I'm like, no, I like it. I like that there's a calmness. They know how to play. They know how to run. You know, Carter-Vickers did that yesterday in the second half. There was at one point nobody was coming to him, and he just took it. You know, he just took it all the way. And I was like, he's a baller. So I'm elated that we bought him. I think players like him probably see the benefit of what Celtic does for their own career. Because I'm pretty sure his career, you know, was probably a little stagnated down at Spurs, and he's come up here, made a name for himself, got into his, you know, national side. People are really starting to look at him. But I think, and I hope there's a camaraderie now at Celtic with these boys that I actually think they'll stay longer than we think. I just said think about 14 times.
No, I totally get it. I think, like you say, I think he was a massive signing. I think maybe his career path maybe helped us get him, because I think he'd had maybe 7 or 8 loan clubs, and he's still a young boy and things like that. So maybe when we offered him a permanent deal, obviously had that loan deal, and it was a successful one. Then we went back and said, look, we want to make it permanent. He's maybe thought, well, so this is what I want for the next couple of seasons, because I mean, all due respect, I think he's a brilliant defender, but it just probably was never getting in that Tottenham team.
I think he also got a taste of what Celtic's about. You know,
Yeah.
and that's something that you can't. I mean, you know, when I speak to my English friends about, and you know, they're harping on about the league or whatever, and I'm like, you don't get it. You don't understand. Like, people come to Celtic and they leave, and most of the time regret it, or just say, I just don't have that same. It's just not the same. There's such an immense fan base, and there's such an incredible, you know, building framework within a team that's just so electric to be a part of. And I think he probably saw that after that first. I mean, look, again, this is all. I don't know him, so.
No, I totally get what you mean and stuff. And I think a signing like him is key to build any team, Ross. I don't know what you sort of think about Carter-Vickers and how important you think he is to the team.
Oh, he's vitally important. He's as important as a Hatate, as a Jota, as a Kyogo. He's well, I was going to say the first part, probably the second part of the spine of your team. You're looking at Hart, you look at Vickers, you look at probably Cal McGregor or Hatate, and then Kyogo. But he's a huge player. And last season, he comes in on loan. I hadn't seen much of him, to be honest with you. He'd obviously bounced about a couple of clubs. I read something the day, I think it was maybe Chris Sutton, when Carter-Vickers first came in, he said, obviously he's held his hands up now when he was wrong about it, but he says when Celtic got him on loan, it was kind of late in the window, and he'd seen him playing for a game for Spurs, and he was like, this guy is like, he's no good, and what are you doing, Celtic, kind of thing. Sort of paraphrasing, but it was along the lines like, he's just not going to cut it. But then obviously he's come in and he's done great, and obviously Ross has talked about like how you come in at Celtic and you get that taste for it, and you just end up, most players end up supporting the club. But I think coupled with like obviously that Celtic factor, he's then working under a manager like Ange Postecoglou. He's probably never worked under anybody like that in his career, and he realises after a while that he's loved by the fans. He feels like he's maybe, because he's bounced about a few clubs, he's maybe getting a settled sort of club for the next few years, as long as he was getting offered a deal or a contract. And the worry was, okay, he's come in and he's had this brilliant season, but can he, if we're paying £6 million for him, can he do it again? And he's done it again and more. He's been at, like, I think I can't mind to it, but I think it was maybe Frank Brennan had said in the comments there, Mr. Consistency, Player of the Year. And I mean, it's a tough one, because obviously you've got guys like Hatate and Kyogo and Jota at the other end of the pitch. They're absolutely been phenomenal. But I just think sometimes, like say, obviously Hatate wasn't as good yesterday. You could put it down to fitness. He just doesn't have an off day. I've never seen him play a bad game for Celtic, and people have made the argument, but it's a discussion point. How good is he in terms of past defenders and stuff like that? Obviously, we had Virgil, who was just a Rolls Royce, a football player. Certainly a better footballer than Carter-Vickers, and you could see he was going to go to where he is now. But Carter-Vickers as a defender is just no nonsense. I've got no queries with him whatsoever. Virgil van Dijk came in at Celtic, and his first game he was a nightmare in a European qualifier. It was the Champions League qualifier. I think it might have been Karagandhi, if I remember right. They were playing. They could be 2-3-0 it was, and he had a howler that night, and you were like, what we got here? But obviously he kicked on. But Carter-Vickers he's not even had a bad game in the Champions League group stage. He's just a tremendous player, and he's going to eventually leave Celtic if he keeps playing the way he is and go on to not a bigger club, but he might go back down south and do it. But right now, just enjoy him, because he's absolutely phenomenal.
I was just touching on your Van Dijk. I was going to go to companies just for a wee bit of fun. Would you say losing, so say hypothetically speaking, he leaves in the summer? Obviously, we hope it doesn't. I'm hoping this operation might be a wee blessing in disguise, because maybe we'll look at him. But would you say he's a bigger loss than what a Van Dijk was at the time? I'll come to yourself, Ross McCall, on that one first.
I think for the first time in a long time, I feel, as a fan, I feel secure with the back four that we had. I think we talked about this last time. We've always had a couple of bomb scares in our back four. It was always like, oh God, another mistake, a silly mistake, mistakes given away, and we don't have that right now. I don't think. I think all our defenders are terrific. Even Kobayashi, when he comes in, he looks very assured. So the fact that we've got him as cover while Carter-Vickers goes off and gets his surgery, I think is a good thing. Look, Virgil, I like what you said there, Roscoe. He was the Rolls Royce. He was. We knew he was a world-class player when we had him, and I think, and I say this with all respect, I think he was probably in a good Celtic side, but maybe the wrong Celtic side in a sense. And so, is he? I think I'd be more gutted if Carter-Vickers left. And I know Virgil, he's a mate. So it's like, and he's gone on to wonderful things, and he's, taken the world by storm, and I'm super proud of him. So he's world class. And I was gutted that he left. Of course I was. I'm gutted when anyone, even, Giakoumakis, I was gutted that he was there, and everyone knew he was leaving, but I was gutted about it. I don't know. I'm one of these Tims that doesn't like to look at he might leave in the summer. I mean, I almost cut both of you off. Like, shh, don't even say it. Because I'm like, nah, I believe in the dressing room, and they're all going to stay for as long as Ange stays. And what's going to happen is football. I get it. I think it's a hypothetical, obviously. I don't know. I mean, I'll probably stay on a proverbial fence and say I was gutted when Virgil left, and if Carter-Vickers ever left, which he's not gonna. I just think he's colossal for us. He's colossal for us.
I personally, I don't think he'll even. So it was just like a wee bit of fun. I think you're maybe right in what you said there, Ross. How Virgil van Dijk maybe just at the wrong time. Maybe Rangers weren't as dominant and stuff, and I think just the now Carter-Vickers is kind of more important. So for me, I think it would be a bigger loss. But it is a wee bit of an unfair comparison when you consider what the situation and how competitive each team was when Virgil van Dijk left to what it is now. But Roscoe, I don't know what about yourself? Would you?
Well, it's a tough one to say. It's kind of subjective. I don't know, but Virgil van Dijk was probably playing alongside. Maybe was it Denier for a bit. I don't remember who his partner was when he actually left. But it's a tough one it's difficult to say. What I do know is Carter-Vickers, if and when he does leave, but he's not going to leave, right? Let's just go with that narrative. He will be. It would be a massive hole in the squad, like fridge sized. But what I would say is, imagine Virgil van Dijk in this team alongside Carter-Vickers. And by the way, no slant on Starfelt, but like I've said, Virgil was a Rolls Royce, and we build for the back. He would be absolutely tremendous at that. He's just like brilliant on the ball, isn't he, for a centre half? So I would have liked to have seen that, but at the same time, like Ross says, I really, really like this back four that we've got, and even the understanding with Joe Hart. And I know people are making the case like we absolutely could get better than Joe Hart, but again, the partnership and the understanding with the five guys there is really great to watch, and it was on display yesterday in abundance.
I totally agree with you.
Celtic will get to a point, or what I'm hoping, if we do end up performing again in Europe, the beauty of Celtic is they have a lot to offer players. And I think in the past couple of seasons, perhaps watching us not do so well in Europe has stifled certain players, coming up. And I think the bonus that Celtic has is because it's got such a huge fan base, and because it's got such an amazing home stadium, and it does get Champions League Champions League nights is a big pull. And so, I'm pretty confident right now the way the club's been run and the momentum going forward that it's going to become that club again that people will want to come and play at. So, players do come and go. It is part of football. They get older. At some point we want them to move on. And so my hope is that we'll be in a place where it'll be fine. And the great Ange model right now is he seems to have backup straight away. I mean, look how all of us were a bit like worried that Jura was leaving, and the fact that they brought in Alistair Johnson when they did, and no slant on Juranovic at all, but we don't miss him, because that position got covered. And I think that's been something he's been trying to do, even in the midfield. He's starting to bring in Uri Waters and to cover certain players, and hopefully that's the model that they're trying to go with, and they'll keep going with.
Aye. And by the way, I know we're obviously the season's not done. We're 2 games away from a treble, but it'll be quite interesting to see what he does do in the summer window. And there's all this talk, biggest rebuild in years over the fence, 5 players, guys out of contract, but Celtic are quietly going about their business. They're no saying we're getting this guy, we're getting that guy. But Celtic will be busy in that transfer window. There'll be, I expect Abada to leave, and he will be a loss. But I also expect us to get maybe in the region of 8 to 10 million for him, and we'll replace him with somebody better. Because that's his thinking. Buys Abada for 4 million, sells him for maybe 8 to 10 million. Then instead of buying a replacement for 4 million, his replacement will be 6 million, something like that. And that's what he's sort of alluded to, how he wants to do things. And I've said before in previous podcasts, you'll see like that turnover of player, it'll be more often. And he's prepared as well for losing like some of our high profile players. And I say he prepared as well. If a Kyle that went, I would be absolutely gutted. I think you would struggle to replace a guy like him. But if there's anybody I trust to do it, it's Ange, because he's got credit in the bank and he's proven over the course of his time here so far that he's got an eye for a player, and he'll just keep this Celtic machine rolling.
I certainly got credit in the bank. Like I do agree with that. Like his success rate in the transfer market it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know a manager in the past. It's even like your Martin O'Neill's and Brendan Rodgers. I don't think they had as successful sort of hit rates in the Champions League and the transfer market. But just kind of sticking on the players and stuff, just some of the top performers. So had like guys like Jota again just showed that he's a big game player. He was in the Brazen Head during the week and stuff, and it just seems to be. It was the same with the 3-2 game. They had the song and all that, the girls singing for him, and it just seems to turn up in these big games. I think he's a massive player. Guys like Maeda as well. I thought he was different class whole game. It just showed how important it is to the team, how important it is to this fixture and stuff. He is just an Ange type player. I think we've said it many a time. He is. If you looked up, we never stop in the sort of a dictionary, I think it would just be a wee picture of Maeda and stuff. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Like you said earlier, I thought he commanded his area really well. Like he came out for a few crosses and punched it and just taking a wee bit of pressure off the defence and the team and things. Never really had many saves other than that to do, but I thought he was commanding Johnson again. I think psychologically he's got one over in Kent. I don't think Kent absolutely fancies going up against him. I think he's a great player, and O'Reilly I think he turned up again in this fixture. He seems to like this fixture. I don't know what I'll come to you, Ross, go first. I don't know what you think any of the players, or was there anybody else that stood out for you?
I think you've covered most of them there. Try to think. I mean, Greg Taylor, you know what I think of him. I think he wasn't totally amazing yesterday, but he went about his work quietly and done his job perfectly. 7 or 8 out of 10. He touched on Alistair Johnson. I thought, obviously, he had to go off injured. He had Ryan Kent in his back pocket. Ryan Kent didn't fancy it at all. There was an instant early on in the game where there's sort of Kent looks like he's getting to the ball first, and Alistair Johnson doesn't foul him, he doesn't out-muscle him, but Kent just goes to ground, and there's nothing doing. He was never getting a free kick, and just for that moment, just again, and I think obviously in the back of Kent's mind, he's come up against him a couple of times now, and he's really struggled. Obviously, there was the game at Ibrox where Johnston's made his debut. I think he had a bit of joy that day, if I remember right. But on the whole, Alistair Johnson, I've said it before, the guy's never held a jacket in his life. He's absolutely granite, and he was outstanding. But then Ross had touched on earlier in the pod about Anthony Ralston coming on, and you'll remember, hopefully you'll remember, there was a few beers drunk though. So, but when Anthony Ralston came on, as much as I like the guy, I just had, and I know he was coming on this time to his favoured position, unlike the semi-final last year, but I had shades of that. I was like, hang me, Greg Taylor had to go off in the semi-final last year to bring Anthony Ralston on, and he just could not get up to the speed of the game, and Ryan Kent ran him ragged. He was all over the place. And I was like, oh no, that we were up 1-0 then as well, I think. And I was like, surely this is not going to be like a carbon copy and it's going to go to shit. But he came on and he, again, done his job perfectly. He's no played in weeks and he hardly put a foot wrong. So you have to give him big credit. And then even the substitutions, you talk about Haksabanovic, okay, when he has had starts, he's no really affected the game how you would expect or hope. But he came on and he's a ball carrier and he carried the ball a couple of times and got us up the park. And then you've got, I wanted him, as much as, again, like Ross, don't like to see Kyogo coming off. And it's dodgy because, if Rangers get a goal, it goes into extra time and you're in extra time without Kyogo. But we needed to get up the park. We needed to make the ball stick. And came on. He'd done that no bad. I wanted him to come on earlier and just give us that sort of more of a focal point just to get long balls up to him. But I don't think we really had a bad performer on the day. And once again, the team as a unit collectively brought it. Like Cal McGregor said before it, we all know we're ready. We've done our work. We're just waiting for the game now. And when the game came round, they all performed.
No, I totally agree. I think, like you said, you're still there talking about the subs, and Ross mentioned it earlier. Like you said, that Moy, I thought he was brilliant when he came on, carried the ball. Haksabanovic again done what we know he can do, but can't seem to do it when he starts. Awata, it was that the freshness, a wee bit of injection of energy and stuff just to get us up the park. Just coming to yourself, Ross, was there any real standouts for you, or was you just similar to Roscoe? It was just the collective, really, again.
Yeah, similar, and I think that's what Andrews is built here is, anyone that comes on to replace tends to just slot in and support the team, Moy, I talked about earlier, and you just mentioned him again, Franny, and it's like, I thought he was, on his day, he's a phenomenal player, but I think he really ignited in this, since the new year, he's just been incredible. He was off the ball for a couple of the games there, and so I was a bit concerned about him, but he came on and held it tight. Diazan, I think, just runs from game to game. I think he's still running somewhere through the weekend. He's just,
straight. Cole said he's just run by him.
He just keeps going. And he's in the scene and he's brilliant. And, it's interesting because at the beginning of the game, I felt he was probably just a little off his speed. There was a couple of through balls going and he just wasn't, usually he's in and he nips in and grabs hold of the ball and he wasn't. I was like, is he having an off day? And he wasn't. We talked about it right at the beginning. That ball that he played in was sensational. The goal was great and we all feel great about it. But if you look at that from a footballing term, that's just world-class football.
Oh, he's dug it out.
Oh, incredible how he gets the ball. Anyway, so I thought they were great. And to be honest, I think the only one who was just slightly off for me was Hatate, but again, he was probably just really thirsty and no one was helping. And also, listen, I'll forgive that boy forever. I don't care. He's probably my player of the season. There's a lot of contenders, but Tate to me is just an absolute phenomenal player. And so he was the only one that I was like, okay, he's not up to his normal stuff, but that could have been. I think McGregor, is just. I mean, we talk about him every week, really, but he does. He commands that midfield. He is arguably the best one at it now in our country. I think he can hold it together. I'm really excited to see this team in Europe next year, to see if he can still do that in European games. I think we got glimpses of it last year. And so, there was, I thought everybody just, Joe Hart, yes, I know people are sort of banging on the door. He's getting a bit older and we should never have let Craig Gordon go and all of that. And I agree. But I also think he gets the club, and there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about his passion and his support for the rest of the team. And it's probably nice to have an elder, back there yelling out what he needs to yell out. I think it's really helpful for the younger lads. I really didn't see a weak spot. Only disappointment was I thought we would maybe get another one. I thought we would maybe get piped into like 2-0. I thought that's where we were going to go. But I was never concerned about them scoring. And I sort of felt that, we were going to get through this unscathed and get into the final, which we did.
Yes, brilliant. I thought he's summed up. I think it was more collective. There was standout. Well, there was good performances in the team. Like Callum McGregor, I think, like you said there, Rossi. For me, I'm only saying I'm ignorant to him, but I think he doesn't get the credit he deserves, because we expect Callum McGregor to turn in these performances week in, week out, and he actually does it. And I don't think he gets a lot of the credit that he actually deserves. Like he never seems to get mentioned for Player of the Year and stuff, and he's consistently 7, 8, 9, 10s out every week. It's the strangest thing ever, but personally I'm guilty of it myself. Like I've never even considered him for Player of the Year and stuff, so I'm kind of criticising myself along with a lot of the fan base. But
sorry, Francie, just to jump in, just touching on something you and Ross had said there. We're talking about Player of the Year and stuff. I think the biggest compliment you can pay this Celtic team is, usually when you're coming up for Player of the Year, there's always that one standout player. But Ross has mentioned Tata, you've spoke about Cal McGregor there, I've spoke about Carter-Vickers, Kyogo. There's about 4 or 5 players in that team that what you would perceive as your strongest 11. You could maybe have Moya in that instead of O'Reilly, you could argue the case. But there's 4 or 5 players out of 11 that could quite easily get Player of the Year, and you couldn't argue with it. That's the biggest compliment you can pay this team. That's how much they're bringing it.
No, totally. And even guys like Greg Taylor, I think his injuries maybe hurt his chances, but I think he's been brilliant this season. Like you said, Kyogo, Jota again, but Jota's obviously had wee spells on the sidelines. But there's 4, 5, potentially 6, like you say, Ross, that easily could get played. Like even Starfelt, when you actually think about it, the guy's been really good, but unfortunately he doesn't get the credit because Carter-Vickers just seems to be better than him, which is good for us. We've got 2 good centre halves and things like that. But so like you touched on there, Ross, as well, that was into we managed to see the game out, got into the final again. The Rangers' excuses were coming out saying that we were unlucky, it was bad that we switched off and things, just didn't get any credit. And I've seen a few things online, like the narrative a wee bit seems to be changing in the fan base and stuff about Michael Beale. He's maybe not getting the sort of the loving that he used to have. I think a lot of things is coming. Folk are sort of realising that he's now been here for nearly 2/3 of the campaign. He's had 3 games in the league against Celtic. Obviously, we've still got 1 in a couple of weeks. He said pretty much every game in both cup competitions is not delivered in them. So I think the narrative over at Ibrox is maybe changing a wee bit in Michael Beale. Roscoe, I don't know what your thoughts on that as well, if you've got anything to say on that.
We don't look over the fence, we concentrate ourselves. But no, listen, every time we play them, obviously we drew at Ibrox, but that's still a positive result for us. They needed to win that game, and every single time it's got to be like a better Rangers. That you'll see the real Rangers next, and all the rest of it. And then, the Morelos goal should have stood. And one of the games, it was if Raskin and Cantwell had played, would have won the game. They played the next game, they didn't win the game. There's always some excuse. Obviously, we've got to play them again in the league, Ibrox. But the narrative now is it's going to be the biggest rebuild. All these players are coming in. You've seen in the build up to the game at the weekend, there was a lot of talk about Jack Butland, who, by the way, I think would be probably quite a good signing for Rangers. But it was Jack Butland was coming in, the guy from Norwich was coming in. It was all saw this positive spin for the media as well, by the way. Just sort of deflecting away from the fact that Celtic are on the verge of doing another treble. But listen, Rangers can go out and do what they want. They will spend money. They have to because they're desperate to at the very least, hang on to Celtic's coattails. But Celtic are not going to stand still, like we've already spoke about. We're interested to see what we're going to do in the transfer market. But we're not going to mump our gums and for weeks on end because we've got 2 big games still to play for. Rangers got nothing.
No, I totally agree with you, Ross, and I think it showed again, like you said there, the lead up to the game. I don't know if you caught much at Ross over in America there, but it was again a lot of their players and ex-players coming out saying, "Oh, they'll do this, they need to do that, X, Y, Z." Again, every Celtic player was not a peep for anybody within our camp, which I think is great. It doesn't set you up for any fall and things like that, because on any given day, Rangers maybe could have got that Sakala chance goes in. You didn't know what could happen and stuff, and you didn't want to be talking the game up during the week and saying we've got to do this, we've got to do that, and then you fail to deliver. Sometimes you just don't turn up. But so I don't know if you have any thoughts on that yourself.
I mean, that's been the narrative, the other side of the city for a long time. I think I went on social media after the last game and I was just like, for the last week, all I've been hearing is ex-players, ex-pundits, ex-managers, new managers, all sprouting their mouth off about this, that, and the other. And we have been humble and relaxed. I mean, I think the narrative in our camp is we play the game, and we go out there and we just do our talking on the pitch, is the cheesy way of saying it. I mean, it's very true. And I'm proud of our club for doing that. I'm proud of us for. I mean, I saw Beale as a broken man this week. I saw his after game interview, and he was just stomped on. Like you could just see it, And I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's talking a big game about this big rebuild. I don't know if they've got the finances to do that, but again, I don't know their financial structure. Bringing in a player from Norwich doesn't really excite me. So good for you if that's where you want to go. If that's where you're picking. But I think Celtic have possibly learned their lesson with the COVID Cup. In the fact that we weren't filling the spaces that we should have been filling with recruitment, and sort of resting on our laurels a little bit, and a little bit of complacency as the club. And I just remember watching that derailing for us, and I have somewhat of an involvement in the club occasionally, and I talked to some people in there, and I was concerned. I was really concerned for what we were doing, bringing us forward, and I see that with our neighbours right now. They're really going through this struggle. Now, the bonus that we had was we had a decent financial structure, to save us. And I just don't think we'll ever slip into that mistake again. And so it's what Roscoe's saying. It's for sure the recruitment that we're going to bring in is, we're not just going to sit back and just say, no, this is our team. We want to build because we want to perform in Europe. And eventually I'm hoping it gets to a point where we are doing well in the league, but our focus is, the bigger and teams abroad, and just take care of ourselves. We don't have to listen to the noise coming across the street.
No,
Ross,
totally.
Sorry, Franny. Sorry, I know you're hosting, but you touched on the COVID Cup there. I don't know if you had a chance to catch the Neil Lennon interview in PLZ Football. Did you happen to see it?
About the Bolingoli running away.
Well, just the whole that it was. I think it was about an hour long, but mostly for the most part, he talked about like that season and how it went wrong. I was just wondering what you thought of that, if you managed to catch it.
I did. I didn't catch the whole interview. I saw snippets. I saw there was something online about it, and he was sort of talking about how a lot of people were turning against him, ex-players and whatnot. But also the big thing that seemed to happen was Rangers were performing better with no fans, with no pressure, and I think that's something that really stifled us. It was such a weird year, and it was such a weird 2 years really, and it was just such a strange time in football with the world and all of that. It's sort of like football really becomes secondary, but I just we just weren't firing on all cylinders. So for me, it was I've just forgotten about it.
I think that's best for everybody, and I do feel so. I've not actually seen the interview myself, so I need to catch up with it. But it couldn't have been easy for Neil Lennon. He's a Celtic fan. He's proud guy and a winner and stuff.
I've known Neil for a long, long time, and I remember when he took over the first stint as manager, and he did us proud. He did us great, and coming in after Brendan left, he sort of steered the ship a little bit. I think I was as shocked as everybody else when that position went back to him. However, I just know him as a real Celtic man. I mean, in fact, when he went to Hibs, I remember the first game he played against us, and it was a 1-1 draw, I think. And I texted him and I said, if anyone was going to get a draw out of us, I'm glad it was you. And he wrote back, mate, I felt sick. He said, it's just I can't play against Celtic. It's my team. It just feels wrong. It feels weird. And I was like, that's 2 years. So when he was getting all this stick going down, I get it. And perhaps he should have just, sidestepped for a second. But that is literally a Celtic man through and through going, no. I'm gonna steady the ship. And I don't think it was out of ego of me as a manager. It's him going, this is my beloved team. And I need him. We're going down a shitter, and I need to try and figure out a way to get us around it. So, I know that whole time was just bizarre for everybody, and it was a shame that it turned the way it did. But I understand it. We need to win games.
No, totally. I mean, I was probably guilty to myself, like giving him abuse, but I think we'd all be the same in his position. But all love Celtic. We'd all be like, we can fix it. Trust me, we can fix it.
And we love Celtic. There's not even like him.
I don't think that's up for debate anyway. And it probably was for one of them, like say, as a proud guy, as a winner. It's all he kind of knew. Celtic was always winning. He probably thought, I know how to fix this. I can fix this, and it was probably killing him that he couldn't as well. I mean, I don't know if you kind of want to touch on it again, Ross. I know how much you like the guy and stuff.
He was one of my heroes growing up. I got the pleasure of meeting him in a pub once as well. Great guy, but I sort of spoke about it on Friday night, and similar to yours, I felt, obviously with hindsight, and even at the time, you think to yourself, right, it's not working. He should have maybe walked away earlier in the season. But again, I said on Friday night, he's Celtic through and through. It's his club. He wants to fix it. If I worked at Celtic in any capacity, I wouldn't walk away. Do you know what I mean? I would just love being there. And he came in when we needed him most, and he obviously, like Ross said, he steadied the ship and got us over the line. And then he got obviously the job full time again. But I don't know. I said as well on Friday. You want Neil Lennon to walk away, but you don't. As like I say, you don't. He's not going to do it. But I felt like the club had a duty of care towards Neil Lennon as well, and they should have acted sooner. But they didn't. And listen, there was one thing that resonated with me in the interview. I don't know if Ross, you've seen it. Obviously, you've not seen the interview for any. But he said in it that there was guys like Edward, Ayer, Ryan Christie. They were all wanted away, and they were told that they would be let go. Obviously, they had been promised that, but then obviously Lennon had said in the interview that they were going to let them go, but then obviously COVID hit, the season got stopped, and then there was no money coming in. The landscape of the transfer market was completely different. If they sell the players, I think he'd said like somebody that we could have got 18 million for, we were maybe only getting offered 5. And he's like, they said to them, like, look guys, we can't let you go for that. Do you know what I mean? They're not getting the sort of money that they're worth. They were already losing money hand over fist without fans being in the ground and stuff like that. So obviously they didn't let them go. But at that point, for me, the professional guys, Celtic have given them a platform to get their career going or whatever. And they just threw their toys out the pram for me instead of just getting their head down for another year in a weird time where everybody was trying to pull together and just get through it. And again, I couldn't understand why they wanted to leave when they had the opportunity of winning 10 in a row. But then having to stay, just go, right, okay, we have to stay, get the head down. We could write our names into history here and get 10 in a row. And they didn't do that, and that was really, really disappointing for me. And they let Neil Lennon down, and Neil Lennon wasn't blameless, but they let him down big time in that period for me as well.
I think there's something in the fact, to just still stick with Lenny, but also just looking at what Postecoglou says, and he does say when he signs a player, it's not just about the ability. It's about a sort of player that's going to fit in with this structure, with this team, with this mentality. And I think that's what he does with the likes of Edward, the likes of Christie. Honestly, there was a season there for Ryan Christie that I was like, he'd be my player of the year. I can't remember which one. He had a great season one year. And he wasn't scoring all the goals that Edouard was scoring, but he was a playmaker. Yeah. And I remember just being sort of bitterly disappointed, in a lot of the players. Now, again, it's really easy for us as fans to say, hey, this is our team, right? There is a career, there is money, there is family, there is location. I know you boys love Glasgow, I love Glasgow too, but there are certain people that probably perhaps are like, I don't get it, and you have to understand it's the same as Barcelona or something. So I do get like the professional side of things, but yeah, you would sort of wonder what that, especially because of the launching pad that Celtic gives you. And I felt bad for Lenny during that time. And I agree with you, Ross. The board perhaps needed to step up sooner. But again, you're firing, Pep. You know what I mean?
I know.
From your team, who's a legend for the club. And Neil's just, I really felt for him. And did I think that we needed to replace him? Yeah. Did I think that he maybe wasn't the candidate for the second stint? Yeah. I was angry when he left the first time. I was like, why are you deciding that you leave? What are you doing? He goes to Bolton or he goes on holiday or something, and I'm like, so there's things in there, but there's no getting away from the fact that, the collapse of the 10 was not just down to a coach.
No.
It was down to a whole plethora of reasons, and he just happened to be, in that turmoil. But he's a good soul, that man. And I'm like you. I mean, we all grew up. I mean, he was the guy on that team sheet. Lenny's in there. He was never a goal scorer, but you knew that there was going to be a bit of grit in the team. You were safe. He had you covered. One of my favorite, just to throw one of my favorite stories on Lenny, which you'll hate that I'm even repeating this. I've had a few jars with him over the years as well. And he was always so kind to me and would invite me to like the training ground. And I got to take my dad. And so my dad's like your guy's dad, through and through, was going to the ground when he was a kid. Celtic's his life. And I got to take my dad to the training ground. And I took it very seriously in the fact that, I'm just here. I'm going to stand back. I don't want to interfere with training in any way. And Lenny comes over and he says some nice words to me, meets my dad. And Danny McGrain's walking down the stairs, and Lenny's like, do you want to meet Danny? And my dad's, absolutely. Great, So he goes up and he does his hellos. And then Lenny says to me, he says, go put your kit on. Come run around with us. And I said, I love this team so much. I'm not even going to take a second away from training. There's a big game this week. I'm just not going to do it. Now, In hindsight, I wish I had, but also I'm glad I didn't.
Aye.
But his kindness to me and my dad was just like brilliant. So cut to a couple of years later, and I'm in one of these charity games, and I really truly know how fortunate I am that I get to be in one of these celebrity pro games, right? 2, but who's counting? But I go to my first one, and Lenny is he on my team or is he on the other team? I think he's on my team the first time. Yeah, the second time was a Celtic versus Celtic. First one was against Man United. And Lenny's there. And I remember him just chasing, like running the length of the field. And it looked like he was going to get a goal. Somebody was running down the wing and put the ball across. And he just missed it, right? Just missed it. But I remember watching him, and he put on a bit of weight. And about 3 minutes later, I turn around. Hey, I know. Sorry, my dog's going. It's because it's about Lennon. It's about, hey, come here. There's a dog next door. And so I turn around and I hear the crowd cheering, and I look, and Lenny's throwing up. Every time the fans are like, hey! And he did it like 3 times. And I said, what happened? He said, too much Guinness, mate. Too much Guinness. And I'm having too much fun. And I'm like, he's just a real man. He's just like a real, you know what I mean? He wasn't pretending to be the pro anymore. You know. Anyway, good luck.
That's a good story.
I think time's got to be a healer for a lot of Celtic. I think a lot of us now look at Lennon's last season a wee bit differently than maybe we did at the time, when a lot of the emotions taken out. And I think personally myself, I maybe gave him a lot of stick then, but I certainly wouldn't probably just been a wee daft at it and caught up in the emotion of that 10 season and stuff. But I think all is, I think looking back in Lennon, it'll only be remembered for good things, I think, anyway. Or should be, at least should be anyway. But so just kind of looking ahead to the end of the season, so to speak, as our gift as a fan. Obviously, the players probably won't, they'll be staying all professional, but so we're now looking, like you said, 2 games away for our treble. We just need 3 points in the league. We've got a cup final against Carter-Vickers, who have upset us in the past, but surely, God, that's not going to happen again this time round. Come on. But just a wee one also, like, just, do you think we'll get the treble? And would you consider it a failure, Ross, if we don't get the treble? Not the season being a failure. It'd be silly to sit here at the end of it and say 2 cups, 2 trophies, one of them being the league and the League Cup, is a failure. But the position we're in, do you think it would be a failure not to secure the treble for here? And I'm not trying to make treble sound like they're easy to get, but it's just the strong position we're in.
Yeah, look, it's so difficult. Everyone knows that. Everyone who follows football, it's so difficult to get a treble. And the fact that we've had as many as we've had in recent times within a short space of time is incredible. I think when Martin O'Neill came in and the treble we got, that was like the first one in.
Since Stockstein, I think.
So I think it's what we've always said. If we show up and play our game, there's nobody better than us. So I'd imagine, and the players and the staff and the coach all say this week after week, they take each game as the next game. That's the impetus moving forward. It's not looking further than that. It's about the next 3 points, the next cup final, and all of that. And I think with that mentality, I think it will be really hard to beat. And so, would it be a failure? I'm not even going to go into it. To me, I think we'll be all right.
No, I can't see any major upsets. I don't know what about yourself.
You never know.
You never know on the day. A one-off game.
Absolutely.
A one-off game in that final, you just don't know.
And if you turn up and you have the mentality and you play the game that you're playing, then will be very, very difficult to beat. And I think everybody now totally sees that it's very possible that we get a treble this
year. Yeah. I don't know what you've got to think about that, Ross.
Just similar. I mean, like you say, you're not trying to. Well, Celtic have normalised trebles in the recent past, but it is a very difficult thing to do, and it's even more difficult now than it was taking nothing away for the trebles that we done, the quadruple treble. It's more difficult to do now because it's a stronger Rangers than it was then. And that game yesterday was evidence to that, because if we'd played Rangers like 4 or 5 years ago or whatever, they probably took them to cleaners, and we did take them to cleaners on a few occasions at Hampden. But now we're at this stage where we're going to pick up the 1-1 to secure the league title. So that's us got 2 trophies, and then you look at if we're playing, for instance, if we're playing Rangers in the final, and you're looking ahead at that, you're going, right, it's a tough one to do. It's a hard game against Rangers. If you don't do it, you get it. You understand, like, Rangers are a decent team and they can beat you in any given day. We've alluded to that already. But you look at it and you say, listen, we're playing Inverness, a team, the league below us. It's probably, other than, I think it was Greenock Morton we played in the early rounds. Other than that, you would probably have to say that on paper, this is our easiest game. And again, you have to give them that respect that any given day they could win. But Celtic have lost very little games domestically this season. So if they went into the showpiece game, everybody up for it, having beaten Rangers, I think if they didn't get the treble now, it would be an unmitigated disaster. But it wouldn't be an unsuccessful season if they didn't get the treble, like you say, because they've got 2 trophies in the bag already. But if they don't beat Inverness in the final, that'd be a huge, huge disappointment.
We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right.
I think we'll be fine. We'll be fine. There's just one wee last thing to talk about. Just kind of Angie's comments post-match. He was just talking about how you kind of alluded to Ross earlier in the group chat, how this whole "we never stop" it has came a wee bit cliche, but as an ethos within Celtic now, it's we do, as we said, the goal showed that we don't stop. Folk constantly is getting asked, saying, is it easy to manage this team and stuff like that, because we're always winning. He's like, if you think it's easy, then come and watch us in training and things like that. I think he takes that a wee bit personally, thinking he's not putting the work in, the players are not putting the work in, and he just backs up in the hill. And I think he actually said yesterday as well, it's hard work's not up for negotiating. It's a given at this club and stuff. And I think the way he conducts himself, for me anyway, it makes the players and fans alike just want to go to the well for him. I don't know what you think about that, Roscoe, about just a wee thing on Ange and his comments and stuff.
Well, in terms of talking about the "we never stop" ethos, I think that's, you hear Rangers fans saying, "Oh, we never learn, we switch off and stuff like that." That's a few times Celtic have scored goals against us where they've switched off, and it sounds like it's sort of all down to Rangers why we scored the goal and Rangers' failings. But we keep scoring these goals against them, and it's not an accident. It's like Rangers reacted in that moment for the goal yesterday, how probably 99% of teams would react. And I know you play at the whistle, but for all the world, everybody in that stadium, everybody watching in the telly, thought that was a free kick, except for the referee. It was a stonewall, nailed-on free kick. Every day of the week, you see it given all the time. And I think every Rangers player expected the free kick to be given and stopped. Ryan Kent then started to run towards the Celtic goal. I don't know why, that was a weird one, but the only one that reacted quickest was Dyson Maeda. And it's because Celtic have had this ethos, "we never stop," drummed into them for the minute Ange walked in the door. It's not an accident how that Celtic got that goal yesterday. Like I say, Rangers reacted how most teams would react, and Celtic reacted how not a lot of teams react. And just in that moment, it just was epitomised the way we play the game. But I can't mind what else you said on that question. Is that just it?
I was just kind of Ange, just how he's batting off comments. Like, he was asked once again about how is it easy to manage this team. And he was like, if you think it's easy, you come and watch us training. And says hard work's not for negotiating and things like that.
Well, I mean,
I think that's apparent even when you're watching the game now, though. That every time the ball goes out, how quickly that ball comes back in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really is drilled into this. And how many times were we getting late goals and, you know, 2 late goals? And, you know, I know the pundits and the media would pounce on it and go, wow, it's incredible. You scored these 2. And he's like, it's not incredible. It's within the time frame of this game. You know, it's not just about the 90 minutes. We will play football until we're told not to play football. And I think that's apparent. You can just see it. There's just no laziness. There's no nonchalanceness. There's no, you know, there's just dig. There's just dig in the team, and you just see it, and it's incredible to watch and a joy to watch as a fan.
The professionalism is unbelievable, and it starts with Callum McGregor. In every single pre and post match interview he does, he talks about how they prepare, and they all. You watch, not all of them, because some of them are not that good. You look at Aaron Moy, he finds it difficult to do interviews, but most of them, they speak really well, and they all talk in the same sort of sound bites as the manager does, and they've just bought into every aspect of what he wants, and it's just great to see. And the professionalism, like you say, Cal McGregor, he talks about how the levels at training are the exact same levels as when it's match day, and they do that. You hear pundits and that talking about it. They bring that level in the training, so it's very easy to replicate it in a game. And it's all down to Ange and the way he wants to work. And also, you credit the players. Okay, Ange is like, he's giving them the message, if you like, but they're delivering. They're still delivering, and he's signed guys that, like he says, he's said it numerous times. Sign the man first, then the player. And because he sort of signs the man, he knows that they're going to buy into what he's wanting, and they have to buy into what he's wanting. That's why he signs the man first. But again, credit the manager. He relays the message, but the players deliver, and it starts with Callum McGregor. He sets the tone. Neil Lennon spoke about him in that PLZ football interview as well. He's talking about, like, he was asked what he thought Cal McGregor obviously coming in and replacing Scott Brownie, and he's like, well, obviously they are obviously different guys in their own right, he said, but he's been phenomenal. And in terms of a captain and what he brings to a team, obviously the voice and stuff like that, he says they're identical, and Cal McGregor is phenomenal. For me, Cal McGregor's a modern day Paul McStay, but I'm just really, really enjoying this team, and I really hope, like everybody else, that Ange just stays and just builds an absolute dynasty, and we go and dominate the game for many a year.
What I like about Callum as well is just the fact that he's been a product of the youth academy, you know, coming up through the ranks. You know this. I actually don't know him. I know a lot of the players, and for whatever reason, I've never really hung out with Cal. But I've heard great stories about him, and even before Brownie left, and he was a first team player. And I remember, you know, through some of the people I was heavily involved with the club, and they would say, you know, he was such a sweet man, like a good man, and, you know, would train hard and do his whole thing, but he sort of, you know, would crash at people's houses and stay on the couch and just, you know, hang out and just be like a guy's guy for a while. And I always remember going, really, that's his party. And he doesn't go out and do his, you know, he's not on social media, he's not on any of that sort of stuff. But to watch him develop into this absolute leader, you know, especially with Brownie, who was a different kind of leader. And again, you know, I'm good mates with Scotty, and I love what he did for the club. But he was a different captain to Cal. And even though Cal's taken some of what he learned, and he's the first to say it was, you know, Scott Brown was a blueprint for him, or the green print, I should say. For him, it's a bad joke. It's great to witness, because he gets it. He is articulate. He's astute. He's strong. He's, you know, intelligent with his words and his play. And the fact that he can go out and do an interview with, it wasn't Sky, it was on yesterday, whatever the broadcaster was, you know, but he's still there, full kit, microphone, you know, talking. And I'm like, let the kid put on a tracksuit, you know. But he's there, and he's just very articulate in how he talks about the game and how it's drilled in who this team are. And you can see it, when they do these behind the scenes stuff of the match days, and they drop all the sound. I actually like what Celtic TV are doing with some of this stuff. And you hear him, and they're all stretching and doing a thing, and Cal's still drilling them, do this. And then when you watch the huddle and you see him, and I don't know what he's saying, but you can imagine. It's great to see the confidence in him that's just like exploded. So he's arguably, I like your comparison earlier, Roscoe. He really is becoming, a real Celtic captain that will, stand the test of time. And I love the fact that they've put him on the banners, because it makes
it just makes total sense. Callum McGregor's is brilliant. Like he says, not on social media, you never see him in the front of the papers. He's always on the back doing making the right headlines. But no, that's us done for the podcast tonight anyway. So we've spoke enough about the game and things. It's always nice to be on a Monday after a nice victory against Rangers.
Just a quick one before you wrap up, though. I've got a question.
I'll go for it. On you go.
So we've got Hearts next.
At
Tynecastle.
Pro it.
Right? And I love playing at Tynecastle. In fact, I think the last time I was on the podcast, I think we had Hearts at Tynecastle.
Right.
I believe. I could be wrong. But vaguely remember me saying I love Tynecastle.
I can remember that. I was on there.
So I'm glad that this has worked out and we've got Tynecastle next. If we get the 3 points at Tynecastle, next game is across the city. How does that work out? I mean, there's going to be no guard of honor. Let's just
no.
It's never going to happen. And, in one way, nor should it. I mean, in the rules of sportsmanship, whatever. But, we don't need it.
Yeah.
Do we like revel in the fact that we could be going there as champions with no crowd? How do you guys feel about it? That's my question. Excited about it? Do you going there as a champ and who cares? What do you do?
I'd rather go there on the back of being crowned as champions. Just the longer you kind of do it, you might I think it'll be a hard game going there, obviously, especially with no fans and stuff. They'll be right on us. It might give them that wee extra 5-10% that maybe needs to get them over the line. So I like to get the league wrapped up as early as you can, and then you can enjoy the remaining games. I think it'll be good to go there knowing you're already champions, and I think it takes a lot of pressure off that game. I think for me that you're not then trying to get maybe the points to secure the title there and stuff. So I think go all out to try and win it at the weekend and go and enjoy it. And I think I think it takes the pressure off. And not saying there obviously will still be pressure. It's a big game. It's a derby. It's the last one of the season. And if you're there as champions, you're wanting to kind of show why you're champions. So there is that pressure there, but I think
we don't want to give any wiggle room on anything.
Exactly, yeah. You don't want to kind of just give that glimmer of hope, but I think I want to go there as the champions and just revel in it.
In terms of that, I sort of agree with you, Franny. I like to get the league wrapped up as soon as we can. And if you can't win it at Ibrox, the next best place is to go to Tynecastle and win it. Obviously, you would like to win it in front of your home fans. We've got 2 games where we'll no have a lot of fans at Tynecastle and we'll have no fans at Ibrox. But it's not ideal. It's just the way it's worked out. But going to Ibrox as champions will be nice. It would be nice if we did have some fans there. But again, it's out with our hands. But in terms of that game, going there as champions, it's not a worry because I don't want to say it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. You're still playing Rangers. You want to win the game. Celtic have went to Ibrox a few years back. Probably more than a few years, maybe 6-7 years ago. And they went there as champions. And they got beat 2-0 on the day. I think Scott Arfield scored a goal. Can't mind who else. But I think Rangers scored in like the first minute or something with a free kick. And so we went there. But again, that I think the fact that we're going there as champions, you maybe subconsciously just come off it a wee bit because you've got one eye in the cup final or whatever. But at the same time, I don't think Ange would allow the players to do that And you've also got that incentive of going, as much as they'll say they're no bothered about it, you've got that incentive of going for the points record. I think if they win the rest of the games, they can beat. Rodgers won by a point. I think he got 106 points. We can get 107. So there's that incentive. But again, it'll be a tough game at Ibrox, but to go there and play a tough game as champions, that's quality.
When the split came through, I've got to say the fact that we weren't getting a home game, I know it's weird for everybody and upsetting, but I was elated that the first game that we get is at Tynecastle. Like,
I think it was always going to happen.
Anywhere other than Celtic Park, if we can go and, and it's still a game of football again, and we've got to go there and win it. But if we can win it, I think that's a great place for us to wrap up.
And by the way, we're going to go there and try and win it without Carter-Vickers and most likely without Alistair Johnson. But again, we've got able replacements in Kobayashi and Ralston. So bring it on.
Aye, bring it on. Champions Day weekend. Champions Day weekend.
Champions away.
No, but thanks very much for the both of you for coming on. I know it's been maybe a wee bit of struggle for me and you, Roscoe, just a wee bit tiredness for the old share bits that we were having yesterday and stuff. And thanks again,
I'm about
Ross,
5 minutes for getting the head down.
Thanks again, Ross, for jumping on. I mean, the weather looks a lot nicer with you than it is over here, but I appreciate you giving up your time again and things. So
not at all. I'm sorry I couldn't make Friday, but they dragged
showbiz. That's showbiz, as they say. No, I appreciate you actually reaching out and just saying that you'll jump on the night and stuff. So that was nice seeing things. But thanks for everybody getting joining in the comments and stuff, and hope you still enjoy this for the remainder of this season. It's got to be fun just seeing out this season now that pretty much everything's decided, and we've just got one game to look forward at the end of the season, really. And all that's left to say is Stephen's wee phrase, which I think is stay well, keep safe, and hail, hail.
Hail, hail.